Hello there and welcome to this vlog of July 2024, and in today's video we are going to ask where are our Kickstarters. It's now July, June has been and gone. It's 22nd of July today, so I thought I'd do a quick vlog on this. Very disingenuous for me to give it such an aggressive title, because I really did always expect that the Kickstarter would be late. Just I don't know why I thought that. I just always remember thinking, yeah, it'll probably become, it'll probably get to me in like the fall. So my expectations on it were always quite low. But this video is just going to be a little bit of an update in terms of what we've seen across the community, what people have said, some people have got it, what it looks like basically. Before I get into that though, just two things. One, this is for tennis elbow. The reason I'm saying this is because I went into work the other day and I had this on, and somebody thought it was like a blood pressure machine, and I think they just assumed that I was like dying or something, which was quite amusing. Suffice to say, I am not dying. That may come as good or bad news to you, depending on if you like me or not. But yeah, just tennis elbow from, I think it's actually from Painting Miniatures. Yeah, I don't know. I do a lot of miniature painting, so, and it is, it's like a repetitive strain injury, right? So it could be something to do with that. I can't think what else it would be, because I don't really do anything else that takes, I don't play tennis, for instance, or squash, so I don't know what it is. But anyway, I'm getting old now. I'm over 40. I'm falling apart, so that's what this is. Secondly, you may hear this weird, like, woo noise. It's doing it there. That's actually the aircon unit. I don't have aircon in this room, but I have a proper like industrial aircon system in my master bedroom because it faces southwest and gets very hot. And just because of where the external unit is to the internal unit, there's like a pump that has to pump the moisture from the room out into the into the open. So that's what that is. Luckily though, it's not that consistent like noise that I think some like low-level content creators like myself have, because they don't necessarily have a studio to do this in. So hopefully it's not too annoying, and my dulcet tones will drown it out, given that it's like intermittent. Anyway, enough of that. So no, I'm not dying. Yes, it's warm. Yes, I've got aircon on. Let's talk about the Kickstarter. So I was, I'm very nosy. I ask around the community a lot, who's got the Kickstarter? Has anyone had the shipping notifications? Things like that. I've now come across maybe like a dozen people who have got it. I think it's basically everyone who was in like US Wave 1 and Wave 2. Important to note that I do have US Kickstarters that are going to people in the US that I bought it for people in the US. I've not got any of the shipping notifications yet, so none of the things that I've been, allocated for has been in one of the first waves, which, I suppose a lot of it must just be luck of the draw, because I just paid for it very, very quickly. I think literally as soon as the notification came over, I paid for all of them. So they must have some kind of system. Maybe it's like a certain state, or a location, or whether you were on a battalion or a company or a regiment, who knows. They certainly did a lot of testing, which was good to see, because I think they said that actually, that they just kind of cherry picked out, I don't know, like several hundred just to make sure that everything was okay. That's how they actually discovered the problem of the salvage boxes having the one vehicle in there instead of the mech. So they've then subsequently rectified that, or tried to rectify that as much as they can, by giving people more salvage. We talked about that actually in the last video that I did a couple of weeks ago, so I won't recover that here. In terms of who has got this then, what I'd advise you do, and I'll put the link in the description below, because one of my favourite BattleTech YouTube content creators, who is Sleepless Runin, actually got his, I think he said he was in Wave 2, so he got a couple of battalions and just put the video out this morning. I really, really love Sleepless Ronin's content, and he's a great guy, and I'm really glad that he got, it's almost like that. Is it the Sherman quote? No, who was it? It was one of the Civil War generals who said, to win a battle, you have to get their firstest with the mostest. The same principle applies to doing unboxing videos, I think, on YouTube. So if you get there first, even if you do like rotten quality, which by the way Sleepless Runin doesn't do, he always does good quality videos, far better than me, for instance, because he actually edits his videos. You will get more views. So I'd love to get Sleepless Ronin, like get him, like I say, viral in a BattleTech sense. So get him like as many views as we possibly can, because and I could be wrong. Maybe it's just because I follow a lot of his content, it flashes up for me on YouTube when he releases a video. But I don't think I've seen anyone else doing any like real comprehensive Kickstarter unboxings yet. So Sleepless Ronin, certainly one of the first, if not the first, and a good one as well, because he gets 2 battalions. He kind of unpacks his salvage packs, salvage boxes. Sorry. And he's just got really, really like interesting ideas about BattleTech. So he's good just to listen talk about BattleTech, because he's very clued in. He plays like all the eras, and I'd go so far as to saying that he is one of my like big inspirations for doing this channel, because when I remember like very early on like watching him, and I think we maybe actually created like content at the same time, became like creators at the same time. But I just remember like thinking, I really like the way that guy does content, and I can do something similar, but just on like a more lo-fi, less like video editing like way than he does it. So basically him, but much less professional. But yeah, do check that out and give Sleepless Ronin your support. And I never ask for anything myself. Like you control my videos. I never ask for people to subscribe or like videos, but I would ask that you go and subscribe to Sleepless Ronin, because he is he's someone that actually takes a lot of care and thought on his videos. In terms of other people, I've seen like peppered people across like social media saying that they have got it. Some of this as well came out like weeks and weeks ago. So I remember seeing someone on Facebook saying that they got it. Must have been like a month ago now. So I presume they were like in the testing area. What I do expect is, and it is going quite slowly, is I think for anyone in international, so whether you're in like Europe or Australia, which are kind of the 2 big BattleTech areas, right? I mean, it might be easier for them to get things to say Mexico or Canada, because it's right on the borders of the US. But I think the international deliveries, I don't expect my stuff for weeks yet, to be honest, just given the way that I'm seeing the very methodical approach that they've got to it. And I think honestly the methodical approach is better. I'm hearing a lot of like, I'm very, very hesitant to even say some of this stuff, because some of it is just rumour. So as long as you keep in mind that what I say here is absolutely rumour, I've not heard any confirmation or any official comms from Catalyst, but there were some like comms going around that they felt that they were doing the smaller orders first, which might lead to some of the bigger orders not being able to fulfill everything that they bought, because it all went out in the smaller orders previously, which might cause delays for the bigger orders. I would absolutely get stung on that one if it is true, because actually I would on my main order. My the orders that I bought for other people, probably not, because I think the highest I bought for someone was a battalion, which is I suppose like a mid order. I suppose like the companies are the small ones. But in terms of my main order, which was 1 regiment and 3 battalions, I'm absolutely certain that will be in the like top 3 percentile of Kickstarter orders in terms of what I paid for it. I am guessing. I can't be sure by that, but I'd probably say it's a pretty reasonable assessment on my part. It's always a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation. If they did it the other way and got all the big orders out first, obviously they would keep their quote-unquote quote key clients happier, because obviously people like me tend to spend more money with them. But then you get more upset customers, because the people who've just got like the company level, there's many more of them that then don't get their orders fulfilled. So You can't win. If I was in their position, I think I probably would do it like they are doing it, because I'd probably make the assumption that the people who really go like all in on it and spend like thousands of dollars on this thing are usually the hardcore fans anyway, probably more forgiving because they're so into it. I'm definitely in that bracket. Whereas like your casual fan, like people that you kind of want return business from and kind of sit in a less fanatical demographic, you probably really don't want to upset them, because they might never come back and give repeat business. So it's a really tough situation. It's always going to leave some people upset and annoyed. Again, I mean, I know I can come across as quite lecturing, fair enough. That's a criticism of me that a lot of people give, but tough. I'd always just advise that people are at least adults about this and don't like start throwing slurs around and going crazy about it. It is just a game. Kickstarter, after all, it's not life and death. I think the mistake that Catalyst made on this, frankly, was saying June. As soon as they said June last year, I was like, eyebrows raised. Just because it all went through in March and it was such a huge Kickstarter, like it absolutely trounced their expectations. So that means that this is, much bigger than anything that they have ever done before. I know they did a lot of pre-planning, and the rumours circulating was that a lot of the plastics were done late last year. But yet we're still in this position where, I mean, I wouldn't even like to put a percentage on it in terms of how many of the Kickstarters are fulfilled, but it's certainly a low one, because I know hundreds of people across the community who bought this, and maybe, I don't know, like I said, maybe between like 8 and 12 people have got it. So you're talking a pretty low percentile, if that's any kind of statistical analysis to go by, which it really isn't, but I suppose that's some anecdotal evidence right there. Again, just because I got so many Kickstarters across like the entire globe, really, not one has yet said that it's been shipped. So that's actually quite a good metric as well, to see that this is not something that's really like, being cascaded through yet, and loads of people have got shipping acknowledgements. What I would guess is that over the next like 2 to 3 weeks, we probably will see an influx, or that this situation will change, and that a lot of people will suddenly be going online saying, "Oh, I've had my shipping notification." Why I'm saying that is because, I mean, well, that's taking it that the rumours aren't true about the lack of supply in terms of being able to get all the Kickstarters out to everyone. But let's assume that is just a rumour and it's not true, hopefully. Then I'd imagine that they'll have to break the back of it with the testing and make sure that everything's kosher and okay. And then they can really, once they get into the groove of it, and the is it QML? I don't actually. We might not get QML in Europe. I don't know who the distribution center is, but once the kind of back of it has been broken, especially on those US orders, and they've got the majority out, at that juncture, I'd imagine we'll start to see like the ball really rolling on it, because the last thing that somebody like, that one of the big distribution companies or centres will want is to have something of this size like hanging around for too long, because they'll have so much stuff to do, obviously. So it's something that's in everyone's interest to obviously clear the backlog as quickly as possible. That is all on the caveat, though, that the distribution centres have got the goods, because another rumour doing the circulating around was that some of the products that there had been a delay on, so I think it was like some of the books, not necessarily the plastics, but some of the kind of additional things that came with the Kickstarter, haven't yet been delivered to the distribution centre. And again, rumour, I think somebody may have said this in the comments on the last video. So again, I don't know where they get their intel from. So I will parrot this, but with a caveat that I've got no confirmation of its validity. That they're just going to send out the Kickstarters anyway, and at a later date they might send, like a little bit, whatever, if it's like a book, they might send it out, as like an additional, just to kind of clear the backlogs. Again, don't even know if that's possible in terms of the shipping costs, because obviously, you can't split a shipping cost unless it's like the distribution centre's fault, and then they might have to cover the cost. Remember that with situations like this, you are dealing with like millions of dollars worth of product there are lots of legalities to follow, lots of lots of legal things to to kind of take note of. So like if something does go wrong, who is accountable for it, who has to pay for it. So it's really not as simple as we click a button and then it all gets packaged up and it gets sent out. These things have to be double checked. Especially when you're dealing with this much supply. I mean, given that it was what $7.5 million was it on the Kickstarter? I can't remember the exact figure now, but it's something around there. Think how much product that is. That is just an absolutely monumental amount of like box sets and books and everything else. So it really is like a logistics, nightmare. It's almost like trying to feed an army or something. It's a huge project. My concern, frankly, has always been not necessarily with the distributors, because I think they're very used to doing things like this. So, people like QML, that's their job, right? They are logistics experts. Where my concern is that Catalyst are such a small company, and again, I don't necessarily speak to anybody at Catalyst. I kind of know some of them just through osmosis or through other people or whatever, but I'm pretty sure they don't have a logistics team. Right, I've kind of complained in the past about some of the issues surrounding like shipping costs and logistics with Catalyst. I think if they did have logistics personnel, these things would get resolved. So I'm guessing that their like logistics department is just one of the people that do the kind of admin for the the wider products. I remember as well, it's not just BattleTech. They've got plenty of other things like Shadowrun on the books. So it's probably somebody who's just trying to coordinate huge projects, almost as like a secondary function to their job, which is generally speaking what you have to do in smaller firms. I mean, I've kind of had a bit of a reverse career in some respects, because I started at one of the biggest law firms on the planet. So the resource and budgets at these companies are astronomical. I mean, when I kind of got into a managerial position, my budget ran in excess of like, just for projects. So this isn't like staff or teams or anything. Just for projects, it ran at about £300,000 for a year. And I subsequently then, it's kind of an interesting career trajectory. I've then gone down the kind of scale. So I've gone, even though I've been promoted and gone up the ladder, I've done it in smaller firms. So I've kind of seen like that if the huge like global business that employs thousands and thousands of people, to now I'm at like a pretty it's like a mid-sized level firm that I do get a lot of like influence in, obviously, but my budget is like much smaller than I am used to. But I actually prefer that, because it means that I can be a little bit more hands-on with certain things, which kind of suits my style. So put another way, I've kind of seen the like not at like the level that Catalyst is at, because they really are like an SME or a small medium enterprise. I don't work for an SME. I work for like a mid-sized company, but you can definitely see that kind of like operational change. So they will be doing things that are completely out of the kind of key skill set of the person that usually does this job, but they've kind of got to muck in because there's nobody else to do it. And in some ways, it can be a lot more fulfilling working for smaller firms because of that, because even if just selfishly, you get a lot more experience and learn a lot more skills doing that, as opposed from like massive organizations where everyone has got their set job. So everything becomes easier and more efficient, but people get bored or complacent. So anyway, that's a big tangent, but suffice to say, I think Catalyst, having to deal with a project this big is not an easy ask given the size of the company. So there we are. We're coming up to 20 minutes, so I'll probably finish that here. Again, I'll post these like every 2 or 3 weeks until the Kickstarter comes. I think I've then specifically gone on record of saying when the Kickstarter does come, I will then start making content again properly, like weekly. I do have a lot of ideas about what to do, but it's all determined on the Kickstarter coming, because I kind of want to set up I've got the new space set up now downstairs in the extension, but I want the Kickstarter to kind of to kind of galvanize me, and then to allow some of those ideas that I have to like manifest themselves. So I'm just kind of, it's summer as well. So you know how it is, right? Like the weather gets nicer. I'm doing a lot more outdoorsy things. Well, the tennis elbow will permit anyway, when it will allow me to do anything. It's not actually that bad. But yeah, so I will come back at some junction, correct? Some juncture, like properly. And then obviously there is DFA as well. And, the guys at DFA and I, well, we're currently looking at doing all the scripting for season 3 for Jump Point. We'd obviously, I'm sure this is no like major surprise to anyone. Every time we finish a season, we always kind of have the discussion: should we do another season? Because something that the way that we structure the show is very much like, we've got topics that we want to talk about, and then we've got like parameters that we put on it. So we're not like, we're not that kind of show that just has like revolving door content, much like say my channel is. Well, I will do like, I'm not really a reaction channel, but I'll do little videos and vlogs like this. DFA obviously very much like the sharp end of professionalism, so we tried all the products that we run there. We effectively put them through like a vetting process of, will this do well? Will it get traction? Will people watch it? We kind of debate that, discuss it. I don't on my channel. I mean, this is me just like shooting to a camera for 21 minutes about pretty much a subject that I know that people will be like washing up and listening to it, or maybe kind of on a their phone going to work or something like that. Whereas DFA is something that you'd actually probably sit and watch it as a show. So depends on what you're doing, right? But we always have to ask that question: is Jump Point something that we've got content for? And I think we decided yes. Like the format might change a little bit, but we absolutely want to continue with it. I think all three of us wanted to do a podcast, and it's it gets traction as well, and people seem to like it, so we will continue with it. And I will then continue doing these supplementary little hobby vlog things intermittently. I might as well. I've been kind of dabbling with extending the channel a little bit to do some like wider hobby content. Really not thought about that very much, but I've kind of like, BattleTech will always be the focus here. But like I do so much across like whether it's like Games Workshop products, or even things like, I've just got like the Monolith Games Conan Kickstarter that's coming in January, and I think that will be really, really fun. And I've got the new space downstairs. I could probably do something a little bit more diverse and interesting. But we shall see. I think first and foremost, before anything like that gets done, I want to kind of finish the series on campaign operations. I have literally now got like upwards of 1,000 things to paint over the next like couple of years, whether it's the new BattleTech Kickstarter. I've just spent maybe like £1,000 on Games Workshop products as well, because I really kind of got back into version 1 of Kill Team and went and like completed all the kill teams that I wanted. You can see a lot of that on the shelving behind me. It's all the black stuff that's primed but not painted yet. And that's another reason. That's basically been my hobby for the last like 2 months, has been collecting that and assembling it. Because unlike BattleTech, you've got to put all the Games Workshop stuff together, which is something I loathe doing. It's like the one part of the hobby I absolutely hate. In fact, so much so that I will often just go on eBay and buy someone will buy the box set and then assemble the models and then they'll sell them. I'd much rather just do that. I don't care about the way that they are stood or anything. I hate having to glue things together because I always just get covered in it and it's horrible. Whereas like painting, I absolutely love and adore. Actually, assembling the products is something I generally despise to do. But it's now all done, and the BattleTech Kickstarter is already made, as is the Monolith Games one. So from here on out, hopefully, the only things I'll be assembling are the odd Blood Bowl team, because I've kind of really finished with Kill Team. I bought so much of it, and went and got a lot of the commanders and the elite units and stuff like that, that I'm now very much like sated with my like Games Workshop like hobby, at least for the next few years. Anyway, I will leave that here. So again, if you have got any news on Kickstarters, please do share it below. I'm always interested to know whether people have got it, what people think, whether it's come to you already, that's always good to see, just so we can kind of get an idea of how many people have actually got the product. So I will probably see you in another few weeks, unless, you know, the shipping gets confirmed and it comes through. Then you may at some point see me do the unboxing video, which I'll do downstairs. On that note, then, I shall leave it there, and I shall hopefully catch you again next time.